Good morning. Welcome to my channel. My name is David Okon, and I'm talking about COVID-19. This is part of the cost of living. I've been speaking about the cost of living and linking this to different factors. And thank you for everyone who has been helping me to subscribe to this channel and for sharing with family and friends, and also engaging with the channel, leaving a comment, and attempting to follow with me discussing this topic. And the cost of living has been a problem, but if you look at the rates of my video, I've said there that the cost of living is one of the problems in society. So it is something we need to remember that is affecting many people. It's affecting the majority of the population. If you work for a living, then you are suffering the cost of living. If you are a multi-billionaire, you don't suffer the cost of living. It's a crisis. As simple as that. And normally, if there is a problem, because it is your life, it is my life, if there is a problem, it is up to us to solve the problem. And to solve such a problem, we need to understand what the problem is. The problem of the cost of living or any other crisis in the country or in any country is when a government fails to intervene to help those who cannot help themselves. And this is the case because, like in a country like Britain, the government is unable to help the people of the country because it has shut down the public sector. This shutting down of the public sector is global, and it is taking place all over the world because of political and ideological reason. And there are a group of people who are in power who believe that the public sector is bad, the private sector is good. And in that sense, they have stopped the government around the world. All the governments around the world are not financing public sector anymore. So public sector is shutting down. Only the private sector are left. The private sector, which are big and small, and medium and big businesses, are not designed to help people who need help in a country, in a global world, wherever a government operates. It is the government which is equipped to help people by promoting public sector. If you look at the globe, the public sector is closing down, and that's why whenever there's a crisis, whether it is war, whether it is COVID-19, whether it is Brexit in the UK, it is being caused because the government can no longer run the country, in the sense that the private sector is running the country for themselves. In the public, which are the majority of the population, are left with nothing. And we may still see traces of public services, but it is shutting down. Um, that's why there are long waiting lists in the NHS. If you want public housing, like in the UK, in the developed world, you wait. Some people wait for 20 years to get public housing, and there is no reason for long waiting. It's just, people just don't really problem. Maybe we don't think very carefully. I mean, if you wait, if you phone your hospital or you walk into your local hospital now and try to book an appointment with your doctor, In the UK, we call it GP, with your doctor. You will not get it. If you walk into your clinic, your local clinic, you're not going to get an appointment with the doctor. The receptionists, who are actually not non-clinicians, are going to ask you to go home or phone them. If you walk to the hospital, if you ask at the reception, they will tell you that the appointment is no longer there. There is no appointment, so they're not going to book you in for an appointment at the GP. They will tell you the appointment is not there, and they will probably ask you to phone them and book an appointment. When you phone them, you probably stay for between 40 minutes to 1 hour, or sometimes you can, you are given the option to leave them a message to call you back. Maybe after 1 or 2 or 3 hours, they will call you back, and they will only say, when they call you back, they will say, the appointment is no longer available. And if you ask them to book an appointment for you, they will refuse and say they don't pre-book appointment. You have to phone them, and when you phone them, they will say the appointment is no longer there. Even if you phone them very early in the morning, they are not going to give you an appointment. And if you say this is an emergency, they are going to ask you to contact an emergency line with the main hospital. And the main hospital might, if you need an ambulance, you speak to the people at the hospital with an ambulance. They will probably say to you, they're most likely to say to you, they're not coming because they are not a taxi. That means you don't need an ambulance. You find your way to the hospital. The reason they say that is because they don't have ambulance for people who depend on public health, a public health care system. That should tell you is that what is left now. I'm just giving the example of healthcare because I'm talking of COVID-19 in the first place. Also because healthcare is part of the public sector, and there's a problem there involving human life. If you're rich, you go to a private hospital and you get private service. There's no problem there because the system has been privatized. It's run by private businesses. Public service is now run as a private business. People who has money will get it. People who have money will get public service. People who do not have money are not going to get public service anymore. It's beginning now. And the cost of living is happening because of low pay and because of lack of employment and because of failure of the government to support people, maybe through state welfare system. There are so many different issues, and I'll be talking about it so that people are clear. And like I said, the problem is happening because the government has failed to intervene. The government cannot do anything now because the public sector is closed down. And whatever is left, whatever money the government tells you it is spending to finance the public service, this goes into the pocket of the super rich, who are actually private companies, who are now left to run private sector. They don't provide a private service at all. But the money the government gives is actually is spent on capital investment and infrastructure. That is wealth for the rich. For the rich businesses are providing a private sector, a public service. So in short, private companies are not providing public service. The government privatized the health system, privatize the transport system. It sold off everything to private businesses who are using public money to invest in capital investment and also infrastructure. They are not investing it in frontline service. That's why they shortage. There's no money in the money given is actually taken away by super rich. It's like taking money, the government taking money from the poor and giving to the rich. And poverty, poor people are actually people who work for a living. People who are actually workers, who are actually lower class, working class, and then the middle class. And people should not be confused talking about the middle class. The middle class and the lower class are actually working classes. And maybe, you know, the government probably dividing between middle class and working class to confuse people. People who want to be confused can be confused because it's your life. You need to think clearly because it's your life. This is about survival. And the people who are in power have no compassion at all. And the way they don't listen to anybody. When you tell them, you know, like there's a strike now going on in this country, in Britain, and across the globe, in France, there's complaint against the state. People are actually protesting. They can protest if they want, but the government do not listen to them because the government is now so powerful. They used to listen in the past because they still didn't have power. Now they have power, they have technology, they no longer need workers. They're shutting down the country. They're actually selling off, handing over the entire state to a private individual who are super rich. That is the future. And the future of society, we were made to believe in the past that there was a country, there was never a country. We were told there was democracy, there has never been democracy. Democracy is a myth, and people just vote, and the government does what it does. He just wanted people, the people who are referred to as the people of a country are actually not any, they are just registered to work, to fight for the government, to work for the super rich. Rich people don't work because they're the rulers. You know, the people who work are actually slaves. And if you want to see yourself in any other way, that is up to you. There has never been a citizen. Citizens are people who live in mansions. Citizens are people who are super rich, multimillionaires and multi-billionaires. There are slaves who have been deceived that they are citizens. It's not just in one country, but in all the countries of the world. It's happening everywhere. It was like that. It's like that. It's going to be like that. There has never been a country. There has never been politics as is fake. I mean, there is business, yes. That's what we have now. People sell and buy. We work. People who work for a living work actually to enrich the rulers. People who actually conquered a country like Britain, they conquered other parts of the world. They are conquerors. And when they conquer, they rule over the people. And that is how the world is. We have never been told the truth at all. So now, if people who want to know the truth should find the truth by themselves. There is no country anywhere. There is country for masters, the rulers, the super rich, people in government, even the government is actually being sold off to private businesses. So that's why I'm saying the country is shutting down. All the countries of the world is being sold off. And you're going to have something called private government, which is now being featured in terms of corporate governance, in the big businesses, the whole corporate organization, the whole corporate systems. These are actually, so the state will shut down and hand over a power to private individuals, which is what had been happening all along. And we fought wars, we fought wars we didn't understand. We still don't understand the wars being fought. And this is going on, and but underneath the system, there are human beings, real life. And whether you are a slave or a master, whether you are rich or free, or whoever you are, we are all humans. In the end, we are inhuman. That's why I'm talking. I'm talking because we are all human beings. We are human beings. And there are two types of human beings. There are good and bad types of human beings. And I'm not trying to say poor people. There are actually two categories of people: poor, rich, and poor. Not every poor person is a good person, and not every rich person is a bad person. But I would say this, that most people who are now in power are monsters. They are violent, and they have always been violent. They have acquired their wealth through violence, and there's nothing we can do about it. All we have to try and do is survive, stay alive. If you're a good person, if you're not an alien, because some of these people in power are aliens, they are only about 10%. They are actually teaching the world to be violent. If you call yourself a neighbor and you're poor or you're rich, then you have to teach yourself again to look at your fellow human as a friend. See, as a neighbor. Don't stop calling people strangers. But this is how you and I have been trained over the decades, even before we were born. So we evolved through cultural education to treat fellow humans as strangers, and also to think of ourselves only. There will come a time when mothers will no longer even think of children. They only think of themselves. There will come a time when families will no longer care about themselves. You see, the problem is there is lack of care. Culturally, we are actually monsters, rich or poor, free or slave. We are aliens. We are foreigners. We fight all the time, even if we are poor. We are not innocent. Culturally, we need to change and become respectful. We have to value our lives and value the lives of our fellow humans and value nature. It's a cultural problem. It's a human problem, whether we are rich or poor. That's why it's important to try and survive and have respect for yourself, have respect for other people, value your life, value the life of